Hello to all esteemed listeners and friends. The official channel of Whispers from the Shadows would like to present to you a story titled The Curse of Repeated Mourning. Now please join us in listening to the story. The ringing of a phone echoed loudly inside a rented room. On the bed, Lan was sitting drowsily. She turned and grabbed the phone, bringing it to her ear. Lan, tired, said, "Hello, who is this?" From the other end of the phone, the voice of her sister Nong came through. "Hello, Lan. Are you at home? Everyone from the company is on their way to visit you. They'll be there in about 10 minutes. Get ready, okay?" Lan, still half asleep, jolted awake, her drowsiness disappearing instantly. She panicked and said, "Sister, you and everyone from the company are coming to my rented house? Oh, everyone is coming here? I'm not prepared at all." La hurriedly replied, "Ah, no, I'm at home. You all are coming without letting me know? I'm so surprised. When you reach the gate, call me, okay? I'm at the rented house. I'll get ready. Everyone is almost here." After saying goodbye to Sister Nong, she hung up the phone. She turned to her side and quickly got up, shaking her roommate Hoa awake. "Hoa, wake up! Wake up, Hoa! The company is coming here. Our room is a mess. We haven't cleaned up yet. Hurry, let's clean up." Hoa, startled, sat up and looked at Lan. "What? The company is coming here? To our room? Oh no, it's a mess. We haven't cleaned up yet. Let's clean up quickly." Both of them frantically cleaned the room. A while later, the phone rang again. Lan and Hoa went downstairs to welcome everyone. As they reached the hallway on the B floor, Sister Nung frowned and covered her nose. "What's that smell? It's so like a dead rat. You should report this to the landlord. If you keep inhaling this, you might get sick." Lan looked at Hoa and then shook her head. "I don't know either. This smell has been here for a few days, but no one knows where it's coming from. Maybe something got stuck somewhere and died." Sister Nung sighed and said, "You all should check and find out what's causing this. If it stays like this, people might get sick. Where is your room, Lan?" Lan pointed to the room at the end of the hallway. "My room is at the end of this hallway. Please try to come in. No one likes this smell." As she spoke, Lan quickly walked to her room. Inside the room, everyone gasped in surprise. Lan's room was quite spacious, and the leftover belongings of the previous tenant made everyone curious. "Lan, is this the stuff from the French sorcerer you told me about the other day?" Sister Nung asked, as she held an iron sword in her hand, turning to look at Lan. Lan, sitting at the table with everyone, nodded and said, "Yes, sister, I don't know the names of all these items, so I just kept them here." Sister Nung nodded and continued to examine the room. Every time she touched an item, she felt a shiver, as if the objects had a spirit inside, warning her. After looking around Lan's room, Sister Nung returned to everyone and cheerfully said, "You two rented this room at such a good price. Around here, rooms are usually twice as expensive. Lan, how are you? Did you get into an accident? I was so worried when I heard the news. I was afraid something bad had happened to you." Lan replied, "No, it's nothing. I think I was just too scared at the time, so I fainted. I already called you to let you know I'm fine. I just can't believe it." Sister Nung sighed and said, "You say you're fine, but who can be at ease? When everyone heard about the accident, they planned to visit you that same day, but we had to finish a project for the boss first. As soon as we were done, everyone rushed over." Lan smiled sheepishly and said, "I know. Thank you, everyone, for coming to visit me." A female colleague of Lan's noticed her embarrassment and blushed. Sister Nung said, "It's good that you're okay, but from now on, be careful when you go out. Those reckless drivers on the road are scary. If you're not careful, they might hit you." Lan replied, "Yes, I was really scared at that time." Everyone stayed in the room, chatting and asking about Lan until late at night before saying goodbye. Lan and Hoa walked everyone to the gate. Sister Nong stood outside and signaled for the two to stop. "That's enough. You two can stay here. We'll head back now. See you tomorrow at the company. Oh, and Lan, why don't you ask to join the company? It would be fun to work together." Hoa's face turned slightly red, and she forced a smile, nodding. "Yes, I'll quit my current job and join the company to work with everyone." Sister Nung smiled and waved goodbye as everyone left. Watching everyone leave, Lan turned to Ho and smiled. "You're so shy after being complimented just a little. Are you really going to join the company? The guys really like you. Don't tease me or I'll go back inside and get the bike to go shopping for next week. It's almost evening. Hurry up so we can cook dinner. The doctor said you need to eat on time and rest to stay healthy. You're already acting like an old lady." Lan turned around and went inside to get the bike, then went out with Hoa. The two of them went straight to the nearby supermarket. After buying the necessary items, Lan and Hoa returned home. As they were nearing home, Lan suddenly patted Hoa lightly. "Hey, do you see that apartment building over there? It looks like an old apartment building that was mentioned in Sun's diary." Hoa turned her head to look at the apartment building. It was indeed very old, with moldy walls and many places covered in moss. Hoa nodded and said, "Yes, that's the apartment building. The rice shop over there is near it. Looking at this apartment building, even I feel like it's haunted. What about others?" As Hoa spoke, she accelerated the bike, passing by the old apartment building. Suddenly, Lan felt a chill. She turned her head to look inside and immediately noticed a figure of a girl in a white dress standing behind the gate, looking in their direction. Lan was startled. She blinked, and the girl disappeared. Lan was a bit confused and thought to herself, could this apartment building still be haunted? Lan silently pondered the figure of the girl until Hoa's voice brought her back to reality. Lan, what's wrong? Didn't you hear me asking you something? I asked you what we were going to buy earlier. We're out of rice at home. Remember to buy some at the shop at the corner. My mom said she'll send some up next week." Hoa nodded, understanding, and the sound of the bike engine roared as they sped to the shop. The next day, after finishing breakfast, Lan and Hoa, as usual, went to bed. Recently, reading Sun's diary at night had become an unwritten routine for the two of them. Sitting on the bed, Lan teased Hoa. "Hey, have you finished reading yet? It's been so long. Hurry up and read so I can see where you've reached." Hoa, annoyed, turned and pinched Lan, who laughed uncontrollably. Lan raised her hand in surrender. Okay, I give up. Will you sit quietly and read now, or should I go out and read alone?" Lan glared at Hoa, and the two of them sat close together, reading the messy handwriting of Sun. After solving a series of mysterious deaths in the old apartment building, Sun returned to his rented house and focused on researching sword techniques. Finally, after a long time, he broke through to the 8th level. That morning, after running out of stored food, Sun went out to buy essential supplies for about a week. As he walked down, he saw a man waiting outside the gate. Upon seeing Sun, the man hurriedly spoke up. "Sun, I'm Director Kuong. I'm the manager of the apartment building. I've come to ask for your help." Sun recognized him as the director of the apartment building. He walked out and asked, "Director, what brings you here?" "The matter with the old apartment building has been resolved. You can proceed as planned. Don't worry, nothing will happen." Director Kuong, looking anxious, said, "Actually, I'm here to ask for your help with another matter. I hope you can help my family." Sun looked at Director Kuong and said, "What's the matter?" "Please speak directly. If I can help, I definitely will." Director Kuong replied, "That's great. I won't hide anything from you. My aunt, my father's younger sister, has been acting strange lately. She's been wandering around like a mad person. My family has taken her to various hospitals, but no one can find the cause. My family suspects she's being haunted by a ghost, so we've invited several masters, but no one dares to take on this case. Yesterday, my master called and told me about how you helped with the apartment building. He suggested I come to you for help. That's why I'm here today. Sun nodded and said, "Don't worry about this matter. There's no need to be embarrassed. I'm here to help people, so you don't need to worry. Just let me know, and I'll definitely help." Director Kuong looked at Sun with admiration. For a businessman like him, dealing with the supernatural was not something he did often, but Sun was the first person he felt was genuinely helping others without seeking material gain. The car sped out of the city, and Sun discussed some matters with Director Kuong. Director Kuong happily said, "Don't worry, the temple renovation will be completed within this week. You can come and perform the ceremony for us. Consider it done." Sun nodded and replied, "That's good to hear. Although this matter isn't your fault, since you're managing the apartment building, it's your responsibility to handle it. When dealing with ghosts, we must be very careful and fulfill our promises to them." Director Kuong understood Sun's meaning and nodded in agreement. After discussing the matter, Sun leaned back in his seat and gradually fell asleep. Meanwhile, in a village, a woman sat by the road, crying hysterically. "Sir, wake up! Can you hear me? Why did you leave me like this? Please come back!" The woman wailed outside the road, crying until she fainted. The villagers gathered around and helped her inside. From a distance, the sound of a police siren echoed. The police began to cordon off the scene. According to the investigation, the man who had the accident was named Juk, a villager. He was riding his motorbike from the village to the main road when, for some reason, he collided with a truck coming from the opposite direction. The truck ran over Juk, killing him instantly. His wife, upon hearing the news, rushed out and witnessed her husband's death before her eyes. She fainted from the shock. The villagers gathered outside the accident site, pointing at the truck and discussing the incident. A woman sighed and said, "That poor Mr. Juk. I don't know what happened. I was buying fruits at Mrs. Chin's stall when he suddenly rushed out from the village road and collided with the truck." Another man standing nearby added, "I was standing by the bus stop on the other side of the road. When I saw the truck run over Mr. Juk, I was terrified. Even now, I still get goosebumps remembering it. The truck's wheel ran over his body for several meters." The villagers continued to discuss the incident, feeling sorry for both Mr. Juk and the truck driver. Mr. Fook, a neighbor of Mr. Juk, arrived at the scene and shook his head. "This is so tragic. His son just passed away 49 days ago, and now his father is gone. Mrs. Chin, your fate is so unfortunate." Another woman standing next to Mr. Fook said, "Mr. Fook, you're forgetting something. A week before his son died, his father also passed away. This family is in danger of repeated mourning. In less than 2 months, 3 people have died. This is severe repeated mourning, not a mild case." The villagers continued to discuss the matter, their voices filled with concern. Mr. Juk was the eldest son in the family of 4 children. His father was named Boy, and his mother was Mrs. Lan. Mr. Juk had 2 younger brothers, named Nam and Bao, and a younger sister named Oan. After growing up, Mr. Juk married Bok and had 3 children. The eldest son was named Tuyen, who had recently passed away. The other 2 sons were named Thi and Thong. The family's life had been peaceful until the day Mr. Boy passed away. That night, after dinner, Mr. Boy went to bed. No one knew what happened during the night, but in the morning Mrs. Lan found him dead in bed. The family held a funeral for Mr. Boy, thinking that everything would be fine. However, a week later, Tu Yen, Mr. Juk's son, suddenly collapsed while eating and died after a few minutes of convulsions. Today, exactly 49 days after Tu Yen's death, Mr. Juk met with an accident. The villagers couldn't help but feel sorry for Mr. Juk's family. I heard that today Mr. Juk had just prepared the 49th day ceremony for Tu Yen. I don't know how he ended up in this situation, one villager said. A woman suddenly spoke up. Everyone, let's help Mrs. Chin rest. Who will carry Mr. Juk back to his house so his family can prepare the funeral? The villagers quickly helped carry Mrs. Chin and Mr. Juk back to their house. That afternoon, the sound of mourning echoed through the village. The family members of Mr. Juk gathered to organize the funeral. The consecutive deaths had left the atmosphere heavy with grief. Meanwhile, Sun was on his way to the village with Director Kuong. As they approached the village gate, Sun felt something unusual. He asked the driver to stop the car and got out to inspect the surroundings. Sun noticed that the village was covered in a dark aura, indicating the presence of negative energy. He muttered to himself, "This village definitely has a problem." Director Kuong, seeing Sun's serious expression, asked, "Is something wrong here?" Sun replied, "Yes, there's something wrong, but I haven't figured it out yet. Let's focus on solving your family's issue first." They got back into the car and drove to a small house in the middle of the village. Director Kuong pointed to the house and said, "This is my house. Wait here for a moment while I check if my aunt and uncle are home." Director Kuong quickly went inside and returned a few minutes later with a man. "Son, please come inside with my family." Sun nodded and followed Director Kuong into the house. The man introduced himself as Zhao, Director Kuong's uncle. "Hello, Master. I'm Zhao, Kuong's uncle. Thank you for coming to help our family." Sun, noticing the man's respectful attitude, understood that the family was deeply troubled. He said, "I'm not a master. I'm just a practitioner who helps people. You can call me Sun or Mr. Sun, like Director Kuong. What's your name so I can address you properly?" The man replied, "I'm Zhao. You can call me Zhao, like everyone else." Sun nodded and said, "All right, let's put formalities aside for now. The important thing is to take me inside to see what's going on. I sense a strong negative energy here, which means a ghost has been haunting this place frequently. Where is your wife? Can you take me to her?" Zhao nodded and led Sun and Director Kuong to a room. "This is the room where I've locked my wife. She's been screaming and breaking things inside, but since yesterday she's been unusually quiet. I'm too scared to open the door." Sun asked Zhao to open the door and signaled for him and Director Kuong to wait outside. As Sun stepped inside, a shadow lunged at him. He quickly dodged, and the shadow crashed into the door, causing a loud bang. A woman stood before Sun, her voice hoarse as she screamed, "Let me go! Let me go, you bastards!" Sun looked at the woman and muttered, "A Chinese ghost." The woman bared her teeth and growled, "Let me go or I'll kill you all." Sun calmly replied, "Who do you think you can kill? When you were alive, you were defeated by the Southerners. Now that you're dead, who can you kill?" The ghost, unable to contain its anger, charged at Sun. Sun quickly took out 3 coins and threw them at the ghost. The coins exploded upon contact, shaking the room. The ghost's eyes turned red as it screamed, "I'll kill you!" Sun, unfazed, took out a whip and struck the ghost repeatedly. The ghost, initially resisting, eventually begged for mercy. "Please, stop. I surrender." Sun stopped and asked, "Why did you possess this woman? What did this family do to you?" The ghost replied, "I used to live in the garden outside this house. There was a large locust tree where I resided. These people cut down the tree, destroying my home. I had to take revenge." Sun turned to Zhao, who confirmed the story. Sun then said, "You were living on their land. The locust tree was in their garden. How can you blame them for cutting down a tree on their own property? They're ordinary people who couldn't see you. Who's at fault here?" The ghost hesitated and said, "I don't know." Sun, holding the whip, said sternly, You still don't realize your mistake. You're a dead soul wandering the mortal world, which is forbidden. Moreover, you harmed innocent people. That's a grave sin. I have the right to destroy you right now. Do you want me to scatter your soul? The ghost pleaded. No, please spare me. Sun took out a talisman and muttered an incantation. Two ghost soldiers appeared before him. We are at your service, master. What do you need? Sun pointed to the ghost and said, Take this Chinese ghost away and punish it according to the law. The ghost soldiers nodded and took the ghost away. Sun then turned to Zhao and said, It's done. The ghost has been dealt with. Your wife will wake up by evening. She's been possessed for a while, so her soul needs time to recover. Let her rest for a few hours and she'll be fine. Zhao, relieved, thanked Sun and invited him to stay for dinner. Sun declined, saying he had other matters to attend to. The next morning, Sun and Director Kuong returned to Hanoi. On the way, Director Kuong asked, Sun, why did you refuse the family's gratitude? They're in a difficult situation now. Sun shook his head and replied, I don't help people to receive gratitude. Helping others is its own reward. Director Kuong looked at Sun with admiration, seeing him as a living saint. Meanwhile, in another house, a man was being punished by ghost soldiers for exploiting people's desperation. The man knelt on the ground, begging for mercy. I know my sins. I won't exploit people's beliefs anymore. Please spare me. The man's pleas echoed through the house, a fitting punishment for his actions. Thank you, dear listeners, for your attention. Goodbye, and we look forward to seeing you in the next story.